The smell of burnt coffee was still hanging in my kitchen when my future mother-in-law raised her glass and said I was a threat to the family. I smiled so hard my cheeks hurt, and under the table my fiancé pressed my knee twice, our old signal for don't react, just watch. My name is Waverly Hart. I'm 36 years old, and I work in escrow and title. Deeds, trusts, signatures, and the quiet ways people try to steal what isn't theirs. The celebration was supposed to be a simple bridal brunch at my house. I'd ironed the tablecloth, arranged the fruit like I cared about symmetry, and even bought the fancy napkins that feel like cloth but tear like paper. My fiancé's family arrived in a wave of perfume and opinions. His mom came first, loud and polished, hugging me like we were close. His brother followed, carrying a gift bag that looked too light for the size. Then came the last guest, his mom's friend. She introduced herself as Sloan. She said it like a brand name. Sloan smiled at me like she already knew my secrets. She wore a cream blazer that cost more than my car payment, and when she shook my hand, her grip stayed just a second too long, like she wanted my pulse. My work is family wealth protection, she said, eyes bright. Not advising, not selling, just protecting. I poured mimosas. I did the polite laugh. I did the nod, but my body went cold in the way it only does when something is wrong, and my brain hasn't caught up yet, because I've met Sloan before, not at a party, not through friends, in a file. 2 years earlier, my office had handled a messy title cleanup for an older woman whose condo had almost been transferred into a trust she didn't understand. The paperwork was glossy, the language was warm, the urgency was loving, and the notary stamp was real, but the intent was rotten. The name on the paperwork wasn't Sloan, but the signature style was unmistakable. Big loops, confident slant, the kind of handwriting that tries to look like trust itself. And now she was in my kitchen complimenting my backsplash. My future mother-in-law started clinking her fork against her glass like we were at a wedding reception instead of my dining room. I just want to say, she announced, smiling wide, I'm relieved my son is finally settling down, but I'm also cautious. We've all seen what happens when someone marries into a family and starts taking. The room went quiet in that hungry way people go quiet when they think they're about to watch something entertaining. I felt heat rise up my neck. Across the table, my fiancé's brother stared at his plate. My fiancé sat very still, jaw tight, eyes fixed on his mother like he was watching a train approach. His mom turned her bright smile toward me. Waverly, sweetie, your father's cabin is lovely. Such a lucky thing to inherit a cabin. My dad's place by the water. The only thing he left me that still smelled like him. Pine needles in the entryway. The old cast iron pan with the chipped handle. The tiny initials he carved into the porch rail when I was a kid. It's not luck, I said softly. It's grief. Her smile didn't move. Of course, but grief doesn't protect assets. Then Sloan leaned forward, elbows on the table like we were girlfriends sharing tips, and said, there's a simple solution. A family trust. It keeps everyone safe. My fiancé's hand found my knee under the table. 2 presses. Don't react, just watch. Sloan continued, warm and calm. The problem with individual ownership is exposure. If anything happens, lawsuits, liabilities, marital risk, assets get messy. A trust makes it clean. My future mother-in-law nodded hard like she'd been waiting for someone with a blazer to say it out loud. Exactly. Clean. I looked around my own house and realized I wasn't hosting a brunch. I was being cornered. My fiancé cleared his throat. Mom, this isn't... His mother cut him off without even looking at him. Adults are talking, honey. That was the moment my stomach turned. Not because of the trust talk, because of the ease, the practice, the confidence. Like they'd rehearsed this in a mirror. Sloan slid a folder onto my table, right between the jam and the butter dish, like she belonged there. I brought a draft, she said, just to educate. No pressure. No pressure. The oldest lie. I didn't open the folder. I didn't need to. I'd seen enough signatures in my life to recognize a trap without stepping into it. I kept my voice gentle. I'm not signing anything at my bridal brunch. My future mother-in-law's smile sharpened. No one said sign today, but you should at least be responsible. Responsible. The word people use when they want obedience. My fiancé squeezed my knee again. Once, wait, he was watching too. Sloan tilted her head. It's not about taking your cabin. It's about proving you're here for the right reasons. There it was. Not paperwork, not protection, a loyalty test. And suddenly I understood the real plan. Make me defend myself until I looked guilty. Make me say no until the family could call me selfish. Make me look like the villain in my own dining room. I lifted my glass and took a slow sip, buying time. Then I smiled at Sloan the way I smile at people who lie for a living. Send it to my work email, I said. I'll review it properly. Sloan's eyes flickered, tiny, quick. She hadn't expected that. My future mother-in-law relaxed, like she'd won. See, that's all we wanted, cooperation. My fiancé's brother finally looked up, and his expression made my heart drop. He looked scared. After they left, my fiancé stood in my kitchen, hands braced on the counter like he needed it to stay upright. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't know she was going to do that. You didn't know Sloan was coming, I replied. His eyes shifted away, just for a beat. That beat told me everything. You knew, I said quietly. You didn't know they'd do it here, but you knew. He swallowed. Mom said it was about family planning. I thought it was normal. Normal. That word again. The one people use when they want you to stop thinking. I walked past him, opened the folder they'd left behind anyway, and flipped through the pages without even sitting down. It wasn't a family trust. It was a transfer. A deed. My cabin. My father's cabin. Moving into a trust controlled by a corporate trustee with a mailing address in another province and a temporary management clause granting decision-making power to a family representative. I didn't need to guess who the family representative was. I could feel the blood in my ears. My hands stayed steady because my job taught me how to hold paper when your heart is screaming. My fiancé watched me read. His voice was small. Is it bad? It's not a trust, I said. It's a theft with nicer fonts. He sank into a chair. But Sloan says whatever works. I cut in, still calm. And your mom picked her because she wanted someone who can smile while taking something. He looked like he wanted to argue, but the words weren't coming. Then he whispered, my brother already signed something. I stopped breathing for a second. What? He nodded once, miserable. Mom pressured him, said he needed to grow up and stop renting, said the trust could help him get a property. He signed at her house. My stomach went hollow. This wasn't a brunch ambush. This was a pipeline. And I had just realized I wasn't the first target. I was just the biggest one. That night, I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I didn't storm into anyone's house with a righteous speech. I did what I always do when someone tries to move ownership without consent. I built a file. I pulled the county records for my cabin. I checked for recent notary activity. I searched the corporate trustee name on the draft. The corporate trustee didn't exist. The address belonged to a mailbox rental inside a shipping store. I sat on my couch with my laptop glowing in the dark, and I felt something settle in my chest. Cold, clear, focused. This wasn't just family drama. This was organized, and my future mother-in-law had brought a professional into my home to do it. The next morning at work, I forwarded the draft to myself from a private email, printed it, and walked it straight into my manager's office. My manager has seen everything from forged quitclaim deeds to accidental spouse signatures. She listened without interrupting, then shut her door. Do you know her? She asked, tapping Sloane's name on the page. I've seen her style in another file, I said. Different name then. My manager's expression went flat. We can't accuse without proof. I'm not asking to accuse, I said. I'm asking to set a trap. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. Go on. I pointed at the family representative line. They want control. They'll push for speed. They'll want me to sign in a setting where I feel watched. If I agree calmly, too calmly, they'll get bolder. My manager leaned back. And you want them bold. I want them recorded, I said, and I want them to hand me the exact thing they think will steal my cabin. My phone buzzed as if the universe wanted to underline my point. A text from my future mother-in-law. Sweetie, Sloan can meet you this week. This is for the good of the family. I stared at the screen and felt my pulse slow, not speed up, because now I knew what they were doing. And now I could decide what they were going to lose. If you're enjoying this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more. Your support seriously helps me keep these coming. All right, now let me take you back. 2 days later, my fiancé told me his mom had scheduled a family dinner at a private room in a local restaurant. He said it carefully, like he was offering me a choice. I smiled and told him I'd be there, and I replied to his mother's text with the sweetest lie I've ever typed. Of course, I'm ready to do this the right way. I walked into the private room with my shoulders relaxed and my heart locked down tight. White tablecloths, soft lighting, and a long row of faces that had no business being there. My fiancé's aunt, 2 cousins I'd met once, a family friend from church, and my fiancé's brother sitting at the end like he wanted to melt into the wallpaper. My future mother-in-law stood the moment I entered. There she is, she said, loud enough to turn heads outside the room. Our girl. I smiled, kissed my fiancé's cheek, and sat exactly where she wanted me, between him and Sloan, like a sandwich nobody asked for. Sloan didn't waste time. She placed a thin leather portfolio on the table like it was dessert. I made a few adjustments, she said warmly. Nothing complicated, just protection. My future mother-in-law lifted her glass again. Before we eat, I just want to say something. She turned to the room like she'd paid for a microphone. We're a close family. We've been through a lot. And when my son marries, I need to know we're not inviting risk into our circle. There was a soft murmur of agreement. A cousin nodded like this was normal. The family friend smiled like she loved watching a lesson happen to someone else. My fiancé's hand found my thigh under the table. 2 presses. Don't react. Let them show their hand. My future mother-in-law leaned toward me, voice sweet and sharp. Waverly, you understand why this matters, right? Your cabin is a liability. And your job, no offense, your job puts you in situations. People sue, people get jealous, people come after things. I kept my eyes on her and nodded like I was listening. Then she said the part she meant. And if you really love my son, you'll stop clinging to a separate life. Clinging, like my father's memory was a bad habit. My fiancé's brother flinched at the word. That tiny reaction told me he'd heard the same script before. Sloan slid a pen toward me. We can make this easy. Sign tonight, and you'll have peace. Artificial urgency dressed up as love. I let a small pause stretch, just long enough for them to feel it. I won't sign tonight, I said softly. The room shifted. My future mother-in-law's smile tightened like a belt. Sloan didn't blink. That's okay. We can do initials tonight and execute the final signature tomorrow. A simple step forward. A step forward into a trap. My future mother-in-law laughed, light and fake. See? Compromise. Isn't that what marriage is? Aunt and cousins watched me like I was entertainment. That was the public front. The family pylon, polished and smiling. My fiancé's hand pressed once. Wait. I turned my face toward Sloan, calm as a flat lake. Tomorrow, I said, I can sign at my office. My future mother-in-law's fork paused in midair. Sloan's eyes flickered again. Tiny, quick, like a card player seeing a bad draw. My office has a notary, I continued. Notary journal, identity verification, proper witness procedure, clean and documented. Sloan gave a gentle laugh. That's not necessary. It's necessary for me, I said. I work in escrow. I don't do informal signing. My future mother-in-law's voice sharpened. Why are you making this difficult? I took a sip of water and let it look like I was swallowing nerves instead of control. I'm not, I said. I'm trying to make it correct. Sloan leaned in, tone still warm. Correct is flexible. Protection doesn't need bureaucracy. And there it was again. The same poison in a prettier cup. Less oversight, less friction, faster movement. My future mother-in-law turned to the room. This is what I mean, she said, almost laughing. We try to welcome someone and suddenly it's about rules and paperwork and being right. A cousin chuckled. A friend pursed her lips like I'd offended manners. My fiancé's brother stared at his hands. He looked sick. I set my water down carefully. Okay, I said, sweet as honey. Then let's do this your way. My future mother-in-law's eyes lit up. Sloane's smile grew, and for the first time that night, it wasn't friendly. It was hungry. I'll initial tonight, I continued, and tomorrow I'll sign the final, as long as I get one thing. Sloane tilted her head. What thing? A copy of the trustee registration, I said. The corporate number, the proof of existence, and the beneficiary schedule. My future mother-in-law waved her hand like I'd asked for a unicorn. Why would you need that? Because if I'm placing my property into anything, I replied, I need to know what I'm placing it into. Sloane's smile didn't drop, but it froze. The beneficiary schedule isn't something we share casually. I leaned back slightly. Then we don't sign casually. Silence spread over the table like spilled wine. My future mother-in-law's tone turned icy. Waverly, do you want to marry my son or not? That was the emotional front, a threat wrapped in a question. I looked at my fiancé, letting the room see me do it. He held my gaze, jaw tight, and then he did something I didn't expect. He squeezed my hand above the table. Once, slow. I'm with you. My future mother-in-law saw it. Her eyes narrowed. Sloane recovered quickly. We can provide a registration printout in the morning, she said. No problem. Perfect, I replied. And I'll do the final signature at my office. My future mother-in-law opened her mouth to fight again, but Sloane's hand touched her arm under the table, subtle and controlling. My future mother-in-law forced a smile. Fine. Tomorrow. Dinner limped along after that, but the room never warmed again. I listened. I watched. I let them talk about family values and security, and how people can be these days, while my brain was already moving. Because while I'd been sitting there smiling, I'd already triggered the practical front. Before I walked into that restaurant, I'd filed a protective notice on my cabin's title, a quiet flag, the kind that forces extra verification before anything can move. No drama, no confrontation, just a locked door they wouldn't see until they hit it. And because my future mother-in-law wanted speed, she wouldn't wait for tomorrow. She would try tonight. After dinner in the parking lot, my future mother-in-law hugged me too tightly and whispered, I hope you made the right choice. I smiled back. Me too. We drove home. My fiancé followed in his own car, silent on the phone, like he didn't trust his voice yet. The moment we stepped inside my house, he exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for weeks. I didn't know she was going to do that, he said again. And this time I believed him. Not because his mother hadn't planned it, because he hadn't understood how far she'd go. I need your phone, I said. He blinked. Why? Because if your mother tries to move anything tonight, I said calmly, it won't be through me. It'll be through you. His face drained. She wouldn't. I didn't argue. I just held my hand out. He unlocked his phone and handed it over. And there it was. A text from his mother, already waiting. Get the papers from Waverly's bag. Sloane will meet you at the hotel lobby. Do not tell her. This is for your future. My fiancé stared at the screen like it had bitten him. Then another message popped up from Sloane. Bring your partner's identification copy if possible. It will save time. Save time? That was the phrase they use when they're about to do something they don't want you to notice. My fiancé's voice went rough. She wanted me to steal your ID. I nodded. And if you did, they'd try to file before morning. He looked like he might throw up. I swear I didn't. I know, I said, and I meant it, because you squeezed my hand. He swallowed hard. What do we do? Silent revenge isn't about rage. It's about letting someone walk into the consequences they built for you. We go to the lobby, I said. Together. He stiffened. You want to confront them? No, I replied. I want to confirm what they're attempting, and then I want the right person to hear it. He stared at me. What right person? I picked up my coat. Someone I called before dinner. We arrived at the hotel just after the lobby bar started thinning out. Soft music, low voices, people pretending not to listen. Sloane sat near the fireplace, portfolio on her lap, looking like she belonged in every expensive room she entered. My future mother-in-law wasn't with her. Of course she wasn't. Leaders don't stand next to the crime. They stand behind it and call it family. Sloane's smile brightened when she saw my fiancé. Then it faltered when she saw me beside him. Waverly, she said smoothly, this is unexpected. I'm full of surprises, I replied, and sat across from her like we were just having a late drink. My fiancé lowered himself into the chair next to me, hands trembling slightly. Sloane recovered quickly. We're just getting ahead of tomorrow. Efficiency. Efficiency is great, I said. So let's be efficient. What exactly are you trying to do tonight? She blinked once, slow. We're preparing documents. For what? I pressed, still gentle. A trust? Or a transfer? Her smile thinned. That's semantics. No, I said softly. That's legality. Sloane's eyes flicked toward my fiancé. Your partner understands the intent. My fiancé swallowed. My mother told me to steal Waverly's ID. Sloane didn't even pretend to look shocked. That was the part that made my skin go colder than anything else. She leaned forward slightly. People do what they have to do for family. And right then, from the chair behind us, a voice said calmly, could you repeat that? I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. My manager stepped into view. badge clipped discreetly inside her blazer. Not flashing it like a movie, just holding it at the right angle for Sloane's eyes to catch. Sloane's posture changed instantly. The warmth vanished. The performer stepped off stage. My manager placed her phone on the table. "This conversation is being recorded," she said. "Continue." Sloane's eyes darted, calculating exits. Her fingers tightened around her portfolio. And then she did exactly what predators do when they realize the room has teeth. She tried to stand. My manager didn't raise her voice. She simply nodded toward the lobby doors. Two uniformed officers walked in like they'd been there the whole time. Sloane froze. My fiancé made a small, broken sound beside me, like the last part of denial leaving his body. One officer approached, calm and professional. "Sloane, we need you to come with us." Sloane's eyes snapped to me, sharp now. "You set this up!" I gave her the same polite smile I'd given her at brunch. "No," I said quietly. "You set it up. I just stopped you from finishing." They escorted her out without drama. No screaming, no scene, just the clean sound of consequences. My fiancé stared at the empty chair across from us like he couldn't believe it had been that easy. "It wasn't easy," my manager said, reading his face. "It was prepared." We went home in silence. My fiancé looked hollow, like grief had moved in where trust used to live. And then the social front hit, right on time. My phone buzzed, then buzzed again. And again, texts from cousins, from the family friend, from his aunt. "How could you do this to his mother? She was only trying to protect him. You embarrassed the family." My fiancé's phone lit up too. His mother calling over and over like volume could rewrite reality. He didn't answer. He sat on my couch, elbows on his knees, and whispered, "She was going to steal your cabin." I didn't gloat. I didn't lecture. I simply handed him his phone. He stared at his mother's name on the screen, then turned the phone face down like he was finally choosing where his loyalty belonged. Over the next week, the practical fallout unfolded quietly but heavily. Sloane's corporate trustee address led to a mailbox service. The portfolio held blank signature pages tucked behind explanatory documents. And when investigators pulled notary logs connected to her paperwork, they found the same pattern. Different names, same handwriting, the same urgent signing windows. The reputation front hit next. I didn't post anything. I didn't call anyone to tell my side. I didn't need to. My manager filed a professional report through the proper channels. The hotel provided security footage. The officers logged the meeting as part of an ongoing investigation. The record spoke for itself in a way family gossip never could. My future mother-in-law came to my house 3 days later. She didn't knock softly. She pounded like she owned the door. When I opened it, she was crying. Big tears, dramatic, shaking hands. "You ruined everything," she sobbed. "You ruined my son's future." I stood in my doorway and kept my voice low. "Your son's future was never yours to negotiate." She tried to push past me, but I didn't move, and she wasn't used to doors that didn't open for her. "You think you're so smart," she hissed through tears. "You think your job makes you better than us." My fiancé stepped into the hallway behind me, and his voice was steady in a way I'd never heard before. "Mom," he said, "you told me to steal her ID." Her face snapped toward him. "I was helping you." "You were using me," he replied, "and you would have let me take the blame when it went wrong." Her mouth opened, then closed, searching for a script that wasn't working. I watched her realize, in real time, that the control she'd held over him had a limit, and then she did the only thing she had left. She aimed for the wedding. "If you marry her," she said, voice suddenly calm and cruel, "you lose your family." My fiancé didn't flinch. She looked at her like she was a stranger. "Then I lose my family," he said. The silence that followed was so clean it felt like a cut. His mother stared at him, shocked, like she'd expected him to fold. Then she backed down the steps, mascara smudged, dignity cracking, and for the first time she looked exactly like what she was. Not powerful, just desperate. A month later, we still got married. Small, quiet, our friends, my side of the aisle full, his side thin by choice. No speeches from his mother, no family blessing, no borrowed smiles. At the reception, my fiancé's brother approached me with a trembling envelope. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't know what I signed. I didn't understand. I thought it was help." Inside the envelope was a copy of the document he'd signed at their mother's house, and stapled to it was something even better, an email chain from his mother to Sloane, full of instructions, dates, and pressure tactics. He'd saved it because a part of him had been scared. That fear turned into proof. I slid the envelope into my purse and hugged him gently. "Thank you for choosing the truth," I said. Later that night, after the last guest left, my husband and I stood in my kitchen in the same quiet light where the trap had started. He wrapped his arms around me and rested his forehead against mine. "I thought love meant obeying her," he whispered, "and I didn't realize how wrong that was until you didn't raise your voice once." I kissed his cheek, slow and steady, and felt the weight of the last month finally drop off my shoulders. Outside, rain tapped the window like a soft applause. And upstairs in my home office, the cabin deed sat in my lockbox exactly where it belonged, untouched, unmovable, and still smelling faintly of pine. Because the funniest part of all of it was this: they tried to take my inheritance to test my loyalty, and all they did was hand me the proof that set me free.